Joint All-Domain Command and Control, better known as JADC2, is a new joint architecture for battlefield command and control. The new concept seeks to connect sensors across the joint force to those on the ground and those in command. The Joint Staff at the Pentagon has even created a cross-functional team to guide the military's effort. And in last week's C4ISRNET Conference, broadcast virtually from Arlington, Virginia, we spoke to Lieutenant General Dennis Krull, Chief Information Officer at the Joint Chiefs, about that concept.
This is about, learning by doing. So we can write a lot, and, the documentation is necessary to have a durable, repeatable, provable way to do this in an orderly fashion and make sure you're satisfied with the results. But there's also a part of us that we want to start now and experiment to inform those products. So really what I think is a pretty good accomplishment, in addition to getting a JADC2 strategy written, briefed even to the Hill with the PSMs, the professional staff members, and driving some of these mission threads. It's starting that work on demonstrations and mission threads that has me most excited. So we picked a few. We've had about 80 submissions. We've whittled that down to really 2 viable categories and about 14 test cases. We're going to burn these fires bright. So we're pretty excited about that. And the other is really making us a data-centric organization, identifying the policies that need to change in the department to make sure that we can share, access, store, and, settle the ownership matters around data. So those are some pretty heavy lifts that we've made great progress on already. First, you start with the condition, and that is that we live with a set of acquisition rules as far as pace goes that probably fit the Cold War era very well. When you look at the threat at that time, moving at 3, 5, 10-year pace was acceptable. And most of the equipment that was procured during that time lent itself to long lead and long build times. Physical things you can touch and see and the like. In the digital age, that mechanism doesn't work well. Putting us on a 5-year POM cycle for funding, for example, makes it really challenging to identify a set of capabilities or requirements, lay out a 5-year plan of spending, and we end up getting yesterday's technology delivered tomorrow. By the time those funding streams come through and you execute those contracts, in many cases, the technology has already been surpassed. So I know that, again, Congress has reached out to us and has discussed options that they're looking at. In the crudest sense, I would probably say something akin to an investment capital fund, which the DoD doesn't have, money that could be earmarked, multi-use money. So it's not too specific, but allows that to be spent quickly. We could probably move faster to retire legacy, onboard, some modern things to get after it as well. So I think that there might be some appetite to explore things along those lines.
There's a few questions here on the JADC2 strategy. The first question is, will there be an unclassified version?
Yes, there will be. There already is. We just don't have it approved yet for release. So we've created 2. What you'll find in the unclassed version, it'll be pretty satisfying to most. The areas that you might suspect that we have kept classified are surrounding the nuclear command and control apparatus. It's not classified that we have a line of effort that involves NC3. What is classified, of course, are the details surrounding that particular line of effort. The other lines of effort that we have listed are pretty open, and I think the readers will be able to get the full sense of the direction JADC2 is heading and maybe some of the delivery milestones that we're looking to achieve.
Yeah, the follow-up question builds on that. The JADC2 strategy, to clarify, the JADC2 strategy has been approved by General Milley and is now being briefed to Deputy Secretary Kathleen Hicks. Is that the current status?
So it's been briefed, obviously, both to the chairman and to the deputy, and we're making some final revisions on that draft. And it should move quickly from General Milley through the deputy, since both have already, established their support for it, and then on to the secretary. So once we get our edits done and get that corrected, I'm hoping in days, we should be able to move that forward.
If different U.S. services and allies will be fighting with the latest tech, they've got to be able to communicate with each other, and that's not easy. In the recent C4ISRNET conference, reporter Andrew Eversden spoke to chief data officers of the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force about making those connections.
There's also been some Army Air Force staff talks recently, and one of the things that you've agreed on is to try and work together to develop common data standards. What progress have the two of you made on that effort so far?
It's really about operationalizing standards that actually exist. So to be able to push and pull data across, making things interoperable. So I go back to that DoD data strategy, Vault IS. The I is for interoperable and secure. And I think that's really where we've really worked with our sister services to really make sure that we can share and share easily, and using open standards where and when practical, and really taking the work that's been done to date and pivoting from what I would call notional to actual operational. And I think that's what's really exciting about the work that we're doing is we're really trying to drive that change quickly, and if take the established concepts and operationalize them. Dave, what are you thinking?
I'll go back to the Project Convergence. We were really excited by the cooperation we've had from the Air Force, and just super excited to get like F-35 in some of our exercises, and the ability to exchange both targeting data, the ability to call air support in faster times than ever we've seen before, the ability to help with the collection side of that type of seamless integration. I'll be honest, though, Project Convergence was an experimental environment. It's not really up to the stress of an operational one. So have we identified fully the exact data in a more militarily robust situation? That's something we're still working on. So we haven't come to that point yet, but we're excited by the progress to date. As General Crawl said, thinking from the edge back, understanding network throughput and its ability to handle the data and coming up kind of with the right data scheme with the message traffic for very limited throughput at the edge is something where I think we're really kind of thinking through. And will some of our legacy methods survive? I know the previous speaker mentioned about the transition from legacy to future and holding on to legacy. I gotta say, we're a big Army, right? We can't modernize everything at once. So we have to have a transition plan that keeps us interoperable along that way. And where you start to get command and control and message traffic becomes, how do we start to identify where do we want the battlefield to be modernized to handle maybe this new data standard that's emerging with our work for the Air Force, and versus where do we want to keep it a bit legacy where we can keep it legacy. So because we can't modernize everything at once. So thinking through that in space and time is certainly one of our challenge areas we're thinking through, but we're very excited by the progress to date with the Air Force. This cooperation has been fantastic.
Make sure to stick around. We've got more of the conference later in the show.